Okay, this is a test. I'm doing a low-tech test. I'm just using my iPhone to stream. I just want to make sure everything's working. I got an iPad here where I can read to see if anyone's like saying anything and maybe reply back. So let me just make sure it's streaming. Yep, there it is. That's pretty cool. All right. Oh, first time I can actually see myself, see how stupid I look. Let's check to make sure I don't look at the back of my head too much. Can you see painting? That's probably good enough. Okay. So, yeah, low tech. I have been spending the past couple days with a high-end mic and good cameras, and I have a dedicated machine just for streaming, and I had everything set up, and for some reason just wouldn't find the camera. Like, it was just a huge pain in the ass. So actually I said screw it, I got to get back to painting, and here I am. So hopefully you can hear me. I have no idea what it's actually. I can go like this, can't I? Give me a second here. Where's the volume button? Okay, works good enough. Alright, stop. Go away. Alright, all I care about is if, for fuck's sake. Where the hell's the volume? Gotcha, mute, perfect. Okay, cool. Alright, so I can actually read comments. So yeah, what I want to do, I have some ideas for some new paintings I really want to get into. But I feel like I should get this one done, and I kind of want to work on this painting that's of my family's garden where I grew up. Oh, and I'm part of a little exhibit show coming this July 14th, next Saturday. I have to decide which paintings I'm going to bring, so I'm a little bit behind on that. Anyhow, what I'm doing now is I'm just going to, now that the paint's had some time to rest, I don't know how many days it's been, I can easily paint over the paint that's currently on there, which is important because I want this to be a much more stark white, at least some of it. And I can also fix problems like, see the little splotch down there? But actually it's not totally dry because this is some mixing of colors right there. Anyhow, so I'm live streaming because I checked out the poll, and about I think there were about 100 or 99 people voted, and about 75 said I should keep doing the live streaming, and then obviously 25% either don't care or don't like it or whatever. So I guess I'll just keep doing live streaming. I had no idea. I knew there's some people who are totally into it. Some people who are live and they chat with me right here, which is kind of neat. Okay. What the hell is that? Ad for something. Okay. Alright. So it'd be nice to know if anyone can hear me that's watching right now. I don't know how to check to see who it is unless you say something, but there's 2 people watching. Can you guys hear me okay? Just tap in any comment and at least I'll know. Okay, so the primary trees. Make this a little thicker here. The trees that get priority. Okay, Pauline. Hey, thanks, Pauline. Cool. And Pauline, can you hear the music? I have it really quiet. Oh, good. Thanks, Jane. I put on, if you guys know the Mission, it's a movie with Robert De Niro, maybe Jeremy Irons, I'm not sure, but it was a really powerful movie. But the music has been one of my favorite soundtracks for shit since it came out. I remember listening to this in my early 20s. Just wondering if you can hear it. I have it kind of low. Another thing too is how's the quality of the video? Just let me know if it stutters, if it's blurry. It should be at 1020p HD, which is pretty good quality. That's what the phone supports. And it would be kind of laughably ironic if this is better than the thousands of dollars of equipment I have and the days I've spent trying to set up a more professional environment. Because this took me 2 seconds to do. I just literally mounted the iPhone on a tripod and that's it, and I hit play, and yeah, that's cool. Okay, so this is going to be the primary, I'm calling it a primary tree, just the one that's going to have its branches are going to overlap everybody else's, right? Oh, what I'm doing, I don't know if you noticed this, but where's the camera? I like to do this these days. Since mixing paints, I can get messy quickly, and sometimes I use the canvas itself to mix instead of a palette. I just put a little bit of water, so I've got water down here. So I dip my brush in the water, and I make a little bit of a dipping palette here. Now this only works well when your paint's dry, so you don't mix colors in here. Anyway, okay, so that just helps me get the paint off of the brush easily. Okay, so like I was saying before, these are the primary trees which will take precedence. Its branches will be in front of the other ones. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, I think I need a thinner brush. Yikes. So this one looks pretty good. I was using this one. Where's the phone? I've got about what the hell? Such a long delay. Looks like about a 10-second delay. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to use this brush a little bit thinner. And I need water. Okay. So if you can see up here, it's a little bit rough. I mean, the outline's not nice, so I'm going to come back later with a dark color to outline the branches that I want, and then to finish it off, I'll come back with the sky color to get rid of any thicknesses, because I want the outlines to be a certain thickness, right? I've always been into these Van Gogh kind of outlines, but I find when it's too thick, it just looks cheap. And after I've got all the branches done, it looks like I just went just over here. I'm gonna come back and work on this a bit, and then add those little weird little black, dark details that birch trees are known for. They're like these horizontal and vertical kind of lines. And I'm going to steal. I got the idea of the paint style from one painting by Klimt. Now my thing is, I try to internalize things. I don't like copying. I almost never use a photograph right next to it. That's especially when it's like something where I just don't need it. I'm trying to be more just, it comes out naturally, but I'll internalize. I can envision what the kind of way he did it, And then, so I'll come on, I might steal that particular technique. And now I think I do it. I can just sort of randomly put these little blotches, and I take what kind of Klimt maybe invented, and then I use it in my own way. I had a very funny comment recently on my Instagram for a painting. One of the paintings I did is that woman in the burqa in the canoe. And he said something like, how do you feel about ripping off, what do you say, ripping off Doig and Milne, right? I was like, holy shit. And of course I just quickly checked him out, and he's you know, of course an OCAD grad, and I know he's just, I don't know. People get very touchy when it comes to stuff. And so, you know, that was, normally I wouldn't even bother to reply, but I was just thinking, you know what, you know, I'm older than this guy, he's maybe like 35. I've kind of been there and done that. And, you know, I told him, he said your comment was an immature comment because of what it was. I mean, it was bitter. It offered nothing really to say other than, ooh, look at you, you're stealing somebody's work. And I'm like, seriously, stealing someone's work, it makes no sense. Especially in the art world where, you know, copying is, there's been so much art that's been quote unquote copied and then repurposed as acceptable. And I think what it was is Peter Doig had done a couple of canoe paintings, and I love them. And so I just discovered Peter Doig maybe within 2 years, and I really dig his stuff, and it appeals to me. So I actually looked at his artwork and internalized it, and the one of the canoe painting over here, I needed reference for like how shape of a body would be. So I went online looking for different pictures of someone in the canoe, and I found one where I liked the composition of the person sitting there. And so I used that reference of the body. And, you know, I had to convert it to someone wearing a burqa, first of all. It was some dude wearing a life jacket. And I'm like, on the fly, I made it into a burqa. I just needed the shape and outline. And the background, I made it up as I went. And I even made the color of the canoe as I went, too. And I think one of Peter Doig's paintings is a red canoe. And I was just thinking about this recently. You know, I grew up canoeing. And we had two canoes, a red one and a green one. And like, you know, red and green are the most popular color of canoes. So I couldn't understand how it could be close to even, like, he said that after I said it was immature and I explained why, he said, how could you not see the similarities? And I'm like, yeah, there's similarities because I was thinking about Peter Doig's thing. I was thinking about it. I literally love the idea of canoes. I mean, I grew up in going to up near Algonquin Park. We had a cottage. I've been up hundreds of times, and canoeing is a huge part of my let's say family heritage. Like whenever we go up north as a family, my dad has to bring his canoe. You know, he has it stored somewhere up near Algonquin Park. It's like up near Lake of Bays. And he does this laborious trip to go get his canoe. So it's a big part of my life, like being in canoe and being in Algonquin Park. You know, it makes no sense. This is about me, and the fact that I did a picture of a canoe. Come on, seriously, copying. And the other part was he said I was also copying David Milne. And to be honest, I totally don't even remember David Milne. I had to Google him to remember who he was. And I instantly recognized his style, which is nothing at all like even close to what I'm doing. If you look at Milne stuff, it's almost like it's like graphically designed with lots of white areas and outlines, and I'm like, there's like zero similarity. So I told him like maybe there's some David Milne painting somewhere that looks similar, but you know, guess what? It's probably a fluke. You know, it's a big world. And the last thing I suggested, which I think is the real case, is that, you know, it's more about he's bitter and upset about something. And one thing I know, when people criticize and are angry about somebody else, especially when they don't know them, it's because they're angry about something in their own life. And so that's why I didn't lash out at all, he said he was calling me out for copying, and I'm like, look, I don't think you're naive about the art world, and that it's not like even remotely close to copying, which is, I thought, was the immature comment. The other part of the immaturity was just being sort of spiteful and angry without knowing a person, for some perceived injustice. And I knew it, it has more to do with the fact that he's probably angry about something in his life, something's really bothering him. So I said, I don't think you're naive. I think that you're angry and bitter about something, and I hope whatever it is that makes you feel that way gets resolved, because life is too damn short to be angry and bitter about most things. There are things that can be angry and bitter about. I get it. Sometimes life sucks, and I've had lots of shitty things happen to me. I try not to be angry and bitter about it, and definitely don't take it out on complete strangers that have nothing to do with it. I mean, if anything, we're on the same team, pal. We're both trying to do our own art, trying to make it in this world. So, I haven't heard back from him. But that stuff really doesn't bother me. I can handle pretty much any criticism, because I know myself, and I know I'm being genuine. And you can't, I've got nothing to defend, It's like, okay, if someone doesn't like what I'm doing, it's totally cool. I mean, maybe they don't realize that I've been doing artwork for 35 years, at a pretty high level, meaning that not child art. I mean, I'm talking when I sort of became mature enough to consider what I was doing actual art. And the vast majority of those years, I didn't show anybody anything. So having somebody criticize something I'm doing, really, seriously, water off my back, man. It's funny, when I started doing these live streams, I didn't think I'd say anything. Now, one thing, if you know me, is that I do not talk a lot. In real life, I'm a pretty quiet person, and I'm very private. I don't talk about anything personal pretty much ever. So this is a very different experience for me. I kind of don't mind it. Maybe I need to be able to see the reason why I've always been quiet is because I think I feel things deeply, and I get very passionate about it, and then I like that feeling of it has to do with somewhat being in control of yourself, sometimes, and also depends on the environment, how receptive people are, and it's that's just my personality type. I just only trust a few people with my inner thoughts. So now what I'm doing is, here's what I'm really doing. If I die, this is for my son. It's not for you. It's for my son. Some dipshit comes along and says, "Oh, you copying, or it's a stupid idea." I do not care. Go ahead. Criticize. Makes no difference. Okay. Hey, thanks, Pauline. I'll tell you guys something else kind of funny. I mean, this is the kind of stuff I will tell my good friends. The reason why I'm growing this beard is kind of a funny story. My son, who's 11, he said, "Dad, I want you to grow a beard. It'll make you look more manly." So I just stopped shaving. He loves it. Actually, I've got great memories of my dad. My dad, for so many years, had a beard. And I used to love when he would grab us and wrestle with us. And the torture, quote unquote torture, was rubbing his beard against your belly. And I tried to do that to my son. He's like, "Oh, that feels good." Like, that's not how it's supposed to work. But when my dad did it, it was always fun. So, Dad, if you're listening to this, I always liked it when you did that. I'll tell another funny story about my family. When I was, God, I can't remember. I think it was 1981. I'm thinking, I could be wrong, but we never went on the kind of vacations that you would want as a kid. We went on cultural vacations, which at the time, we hated because we wanted to do something like go to a beach or, somewhere cool. But instead, we would go, like, I remember we went to Mexico. I don't remember any memories of going to a beach, but I do remember climbing the steps of the fucking Oaxacan pyramids. I remember, it was hot as shit. And we're just looking at these old rocks and stuff and getting tour guided by people like, we my brother and sisters and I were mostly rolling our eyes at all this stuff. But you know what? It was all great that I did it. It was the right thing to do. And that's one of my things. I really hope that I can afford to take my son to do stuff like that. And, here's a side story. When we were, I'm pretty sure it was Oaxaca, I think. And there was, I've always been a bit of a, I don't know if you say black sheep or more the daredevil kind, but I've always definitely had a bit of a streak in me. Like when I learned how to ski, I would just go straight down the hill, and we didn't have helmets back then, going full blast down a double diamond, ready to smash in anything. So I was kind of a fearless kid. I'm not that way anymore. But anyhow, my point is, when we were visiting that ruins, I saw a dark entranceway. So I went in there, and there were signs like saying, "Don't go anywhere, don't go." And I went past the signs, like, it was a stupid thing. I could have died and no one would have ever found me. And I went in, and this is a hard old memory, but I went, and I turned a corner, and maybe I was only like 30 or 40 feet in. But when I went past a couple more, like, don't cross kind of hazards, and there were shovels and everything, and it was a small fit. And I remember it was like a really nicely carved tunnel, and a room opened up, and there was like a jade kind of jaguar sculpture thing, and there was light coming in, and I was like, wow, holy fuck. That feeling of discovering that light-filled room is kind of what the same feeling I had when I was doing these meadow paintings. Because I remember being up north, and I'd go along a path, and I remember one time discovering this. Quick short story is I would see this like out of a dark forest, this like open space with light coming in. It was the exact same kind of feeling. I don't think I told anyone that story before about finding that jaguar sculpture thing. Anyway, back to my vacations. So when I was like 11 years old, and it has to do with the beard story that I like to tell. My brothers and sisters will all remember this very well. We, instead of going somewhere cool, like we thought was cool, we went and we stayed in kind of like this cave house in the south of France in a small place called Gourd, which is north of Nice. And it was hot as fuck, but it was basically like a cave. And some cool things about it was, Gourd is like this beautiful, now I look and go, wow, what a cool thing to do. Gourd, Gourde, I think it's called, in France, is like this hillside with houses on it, like buildings on it. And one of the cool things about the house was next door is where the artist Vasarely lived. Now, I don't like Vasarely's work. His work is very geometric and perfect and stuff. But the cool thing was that was where he lived and he painted. And that was just kind of a neat thing for me. Anyhow, back to the beard story. So my dad basically had this beard all my life, I've known my dad with a beard, big, thick, black, bushy beard. Until one day my sisters. I don't think my brother wasn't there. My brother wasn't there, but my two sisters were there, and my dad came down to we're having breakfast, and he had shaved, and it was such a shock. But my sisters started both crying, and I think my mom was even crying too because it was such a shock to them. Like it was like you could hardly recognize him. Oh man, that's kind of when you wish you had cameras. But we had like video cameras. I don't even think they invented video cameras that you could take around. I can't. Oh no, you could. It would be silent film. Silent film cameras. Yeah. Anyhow. So it's kind of nice having beard now that I'm a dad, and you know, it reminds me of good feelings I had towards my father. It's funny because now that I'm older, you know, I'm having a best relationship with my dad I've ever had in my life, which is amazing considering that most of my life my dad and I were in conflict because we're both stubborn assholes. But now that, you know, he's older and I can see the frailty and imperfections in him, because, you know, he like me, he would never admit anything. I mean, I will admit things because I've known what it's like to be around people that don't admit things, but you know, till this day, I'm sure he doesn't like to admit when he's wrong. He's so proud. Anyhow, I should probably erase all this. I'm talking too much. Hopefully, no one can hear what I'm saying. Let's just go on. Okay. All right. So I think I've got. Oh no, wait a second. Where is this branch? This is oh, maybe this is a split branch. Okay. Let's make this a split branch. Because they do sometimes fork off, don't they? Okay, maybe this one should probably continue a bit here. It's a little dangerous because it will absorb the paint that well. Okay. You good? I think we're good. So, what I think I want to do is what the hell is that branch doing there? That shouldn't be there. Bye-bye branch. You should not be there. Okay. Do I feel like... Yeah, this feels a little bit muddy up here. I don't know how well you can see it. Maybe I'll move this in a bit. Just a second. Just 1 sec. Try to raise it up a bit. There we go. I'm just gonna, I feel like working on the top part a bit. So, tilt the camera a bit. Come in a little closer. Okay, there we go. So let's work on this orange area. See, if you look up here, oh no, wait, do I want to do outlines first or orange? Doesn't really matter too much. Actually, I'm gonna do some outlines. Okay, so now I'm required to do a really fine work. To be honest, I like painting rough. I can do super fine stuff, but I find I can lose myself easily when I do the rougher painting. So, anyhow, see, where's the camera? These little guys. Can you see these? I'm just waiting for the camera to come. The delay is so small. Okay. So these are the three options I have for fine. Maybe I kind of like this one because it's rigid. It'll hold the paint. It might make the lines too thick. This tiny guy will hold this little bit of paint, and that's more what I need. But let's try this middle one as a compromise. And to do this one, because it's longer, it's more flexible, and it can hold more wetness to it. This one is great for a medium thin line. This one, because it's got the fine tip, when I wet it, check it out. When I wet it, the brushes of the hair kind of come together as a point. And this one is kind of artificially cut. I actually cut off the hairs, so it's only it's probably only about 15 hairs at the very end. So that's for very fine stuff. And I probably used this about 25 years ago on it. I don't remember which painting. It was a self-portrait. Okay, anyway. So now I'm going to go and do some outlines. And this is one of the things I just think looks nicer is never using the same kind of colors for the outlines. So some trees have dark blue, like this one will be... Okay, so what I'm doing here is I put some water in there, and I'm using it as a way to mix it up, and I'm scraping it off so there's just a nice little bit of blue, because if I put too much water, I'll get a drip. I don't want that now. It's like a little bit of a fine line, and it's a very strong line, which is okay. Some people have these contraptions where they can rest their arm. Like I kind of need that right now because my arm is. Wait, watch. This line's going to be a little crooked. Need more water. If you ever saw an artist, it's like this stick with a ball in the end, and it's helpful for resting your arms so you can get rid of the shakes and do straight lines. But I've always kind of liked the fact that I can't draw a straight line. I can do something that's photorealistic, but I can't draw a straight line. So, fuck. I'm trying to... It'll be a balance. Let's just see what happens. Maybe I'll keep all these the same blue. That might be interesting. And like I said, I might come back at the very end. Oops. I might come back at the very end and put the orange and yellow to thin out the lines where I made mistakes, or come back with white to fix mistakes that were, like for example here, I actually went inside the branch definition. The other thing I do is as I'm coming down, I'm slowly rotating the brush. That way it picks up the paint that's all around it. If I don't rotate, the paint will just dry out. Like you'll take all the paint that's on the one side. So you would never notice unless I told you, but I'm slowly rotating as I come down. Step back, and I think that's probably too strong of an outline, especially for the ones on the behind. So I'm going to keep the strong stuff for the ones in the front. Rotating, and then I'll thin it out later. Like maybe only this one tree will have this dark blue outline. If you notice down here, like, oh, I'm just going to shut up for a bit. I know that you can't see this, but I'm just doing the tree all the way down to the bottom. Okay, let's come over to where else. What else is going to be this big blue tree? How about we make... Let's make this tree. Yeah. Here, well, I'm going to move it way over so you don't see my stupid head. Okay. Oh, this is cool. This is so cool. As I'm watching, I can see my iPad. And you can see the delay of your own delay. It's like this Mobius strip of videos. Yeah, gotta be careful. Oh, look at this. This sometimes happens. I don't know if you can see this, but one little hair is starting to come out, so you have to be careful because you have to sort of push them back in so it becomes at point. And that's when you know, I mean, that's why when you know you need good quality brushes, because they'll like behave the way you want to. Like there's certain types of hairs and synthetics that I'm not an expert in. I mean, I couldn't tell you the type of hair this brush has. I just know by using it whether it's good or not. I could educate myself. But you know what? It's just not how I roll. I like to just sort of do it. Okay. So, the other thing I like to do is put my, is I use my hand as my palette, because it's there, it's handy. I love my left hand. It's so useful. I wonder if I should start talking about the other painting ideas I have in my head. So many ideas I want to do. One I just, this morning, well, I need to think about it first before I express it because it can get controversial. And I don't mind controversy, but I need to sort out in my head where I feel and where I stand on the controversial issues. Because one of the things I know for sure is when I have an opinion, oh, I know you're going to drift, fuck. When I have an opinion, it takes me a while to form an opinion because I really don't respect people who just start mouthing off. No, that's not the right way. Just start expressing an opinion without really having thought through the issues carefully from all sides. And sometimes it could take months, years for me to really come to grips and come to terms with an idea and the morality of it, and to consider this, different sides of the issue, whatever it is. Kind of like this one painting that I've got of the woman in the burqa. I've been thinking about this idea for a while, and I have lots of thoughts on the symbolism of a burqa. In general, it has to do, maybe I shouldn't start talking about it. Well, fuck it. In a nutshell, it has to do with the Canadian identity, what it means to be Canadian. Who's to say? Also, it has to do with like the immigration. What's the right word? Let's just keep it neutral. The subject of immigration and integration of recent immigrants and different cultures. And also, very obviously, the symbol of a burqa, what a burqa means. And it's not a simple one-sided issue. And also, to a lesser degree, the symbol of a canoe, because that's sort of like what sort of sparked my whole thing. But I like the juxtaposition and the idea. I like the fact that it kind of brings to mind some of these thoughts and topics. And my favorite part is not what I think, is what other people think, because their biases and perspectives, which is probably the better way to describe it, because bias has an implication of a negativity. Their perspectives of what it means to them. And, for example, quite a few people have mentioned it looks like, I gotta remember the name of the character, but on the River Styx, the mythology, and I don't even know if it's Greek mythology, I'm not sure, but when you die, you gotta go across the River Styx, and it might even be death who takes you there, the ferryman, that story. And quite a few people have sort of said that's what it represents to them. Like if I take out the word burqa, they don't even, all they see is the ferryman, which is kind of interesting, and what that means, like as a symbol of a burqa. So there are a lot of things going on in there. And I really like the idea. And to finish that painting, I need to go in and do detail work. I want to make her hands more refined, because right now they're just very quick impressionistic blobs of paint. And the other thing I just realized is, because I was looking at a white man in a with a life jacket on as the reference, the hands were white. I didn't even think about the skin color until after I sort of like have been reflecting upon it. And then in a sense, that has its own sort of perspective to think about, if the fact that the person in the book is whiter, but you know what ethnicity has to do with it, because it's religion, right? It's not a race. So there's so many different ways to go about it. But I think my opinion about artists is the same about sports figures. You should just shut the hell up and let your work speak for itself. Like, I always found it ridiculous when they interview sports people and, you know, tell us how you did in the game today. Well, we were working really hard. You know, defensive line was doing their best, and offensively, you know, we kept on pushing forward, and we really were you know, our more spirits were high. And in the second half, we just couldn't pull it off. We just needed to dig deeper. You know what I mean? It's like the same moronic stuff that just spills out. And I kind of feel the same way about most artists. They should just shut the hell up. And because it's not about them, it's about the people who are observing your stuff and what it means. And that's kind of what I hope to achieve. Really, is that when you look at some of these things, it does something to you personally, and generally, I would like it to be a positive thing. Sorry, let me go back here. So clearly, I got to go back in with the white here and fix that. I've got to go fix that, and obviously through up there as well. But right now, I'm going to go. I switched to this dioxide purple. And I'm going to go in raw, but it might be too dark. I just know this purple. Yeah, it's too dark. So what I'll do is, for the hell of it, I'll put some, I need a bit of white. I need to lighten this up. So, but no, I'll put it on my hand. And then, let's hope this isn't toxic, but it's too late for me. I put way too much white. But I'm going to take, so here's how I mix colors. I start with the darker one, and I dab in the color that oh, can you see this? Dab in the color that you want until you get the color you like. So it's a bit lighter. I mean, I actually wanted to put some of these little strokes here, so this is actually intentional. Okay, so now I'm going to start an outline with this purpley color. And in fact, I think I might want it, well, I think more of a red might be nice. Well, I'm going to go with this purple for now, just because I have it in my hand. Yeah, I think I want a bit more red. So I'm going to scoop off this white, and then I'm going to take some of this red, and I only need this red. Cadmium deep hue. Okay, I'll take some of this cadmium deep hue, and I want it to be a bit more like a red purple. So I don't always mix like this. I'm just doing it right now because it's going to work until I get a bit more of a red color. I don't know why. I just like to mix it up a bit. I'm doing that twisting trick. So I wonder, I gotta come up with a sort of explanation, I don't have to, but I want to, about these paintings. Like, why am I doing these paintings? These Birches with Orange. I think the primary reason is, oh, son of a bitch. The primary reason is, I did this big one based on an idea of just a forest of birches with like this powerful light behind it. And I like the way it turned out. So I just wanted to replicate that vibe, but make it a little different. And it just had it was a neat impact. And that was like, that's as simple as that. It sort of, it got me at an emotional level, and I think it also affects other people at an emotional level, which I think is all the justification you need to do a painting. Sometimes. It doesn't have to be some big political statement. It could just be something beautiful. And what I wanted to do was something beautiful, but more from my imagination, right? Like I made this up entirely on the fly. I didn't look at a picture. I just started creating the shapes that I thought would look good. I went with it very much is internalized. Like, you know, I just have a feeling about something and I just go and do it. Such as right now. So those outlines are coming along, but they're still too heavy. So I gotta go back and white and clean them up, and then come back in later with the orange to thin them out. So this might be a little bit of a process to get there. Such as up here. I mean, these ones, at least to me, are obviously way too thick. And then there's this whole downward area I need to work on too. So what I think I'm gonna do, is, let me bring this camera down a tiny bit. Sorry, gotta bring it down a tiny bit. What I think I'm gonna do even more, I definitely want to work on this bottom part. I like when I've been doing this kind of drippy effect and that I picked up from doing those meadow paintings, where it looks like you can't tell if it's water almost, and there's a weird reflection going on, and I just think it has an interesting impact. So I'm gonna probably continue with that. But I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start putting red on the branches that are slightly further away, and maybe even use browns. I don't know. Let's find out. So this one is blue, but I'm gonna start putting red outlines on it. You know, why the fuck not? That's what I like about painting, is that there are no rules. No one says you can or can't do something. I'm going to get some straight up red for here. Let's see what happens when I put it on this one. Oh, I like that effect. It's so nice. It's very, very subtle. Let me just bring the camera in. Let me show you something I like. I have to wait to adjust, but see the difference? There's a thin line right here. You know, it just has the contrast with the dark thickness everywhere else, and it's like something grabs me about it. It reminds me of like some of my favorite artists, like the Group of Seven, Van Gogh. You know, just these little art marks that just look good. And I'm sure it's some kind of conditioning that I've had, you know, like who's to say it looks good to anybody else, but to me that's more like art. Like now I'm in that zone, you know, and I just don't think. Let's just don't think. I think I've had enough talking and exposing my innermost thoughts and feelings enough for the day, for the year. See, I only talked to a couple people about my thoughts and feelings, and my best friend, says, you know what, you should keep your stuff to yourself. I think part of me is because in my heart of hearts, you know, I don't want to hurt anybody, and I want to leave the world a better place if it's possible. But doing that requires you sort of taking sides on issues that are very contentious. And I have very strong feelings about many issues that I've taken a long time to come to a resolution about, that I find that the vast majority of people we talk about undoubtedly have not put the effort in, and thought and care into certain issues. Now I would say that as a generalization, but I think it's true. I'm talking about average people. For example, talking about politicians and their positions, I almost never do that because you know what? I don't. For me to have an opinion about a politician, I would have to. For me to be comfortable with saying anything, I would have to have done copious amounts of research. I would have to have listened to many speeches. I would have to have listened to counter arguments. I would have to, like, you know, so, and there's people who just, that's one of the most frustrating for me, is this sort of anti-intellectualism, this narcissism of just saying your opinion, you know, just because you can. And for the most part, for me, it hurts my brain how mind-numbingly stupid some people are. Oops, this is the part I don't like talking about because I get arrogant. Anyhow, reds. Red. Okay. One thing I recommend when you're doing a painting is every once in a while, step back and try to get a sense of the composition to see if it's working the way you want it to. So I stand back. I like to go about 20, 30 feet as far as you can. So I'm now about 20 feet away or so, 20 feet. And I can see now from that distance, where I can't up close, is that there's this kind of flow towards the middle, which I like. And I might not exacerbate it, I might continue to exaggerate it. I might use that. For example, I might have darker colors and then lighter colors bring you in. So it's part of like just finding a composition and a flow. Okay, I might do a bit more red over here. And I like how this is like even an orange streaks. So let me just bring in some red. Oh, I like how the music changed. I think that's Mozart. Dun, 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 dun. So I love some Mozart. And I got into Mozart, interestingly enough, maybe it's not Mozart, but through the movie Amadeus. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the movie Amadeus. It's the story of Mozart. Yeah, that was pretty good. Okay. What do I feel like doing? Sorry. What do I feel like doing? What should I do? So I don't know how long I've been doing this for. I'm going to guess about maybe half an hour, 45 minutes maybe. I think maybe I'm going to use some of this dark purple to go in here and fix up some areas I need fixing up. This. What I'm hoping to accomplish when I do this stuff is to create some sort of like impression that there's things deeper into the forest, deeper into the horizon. So I'm kind of putting down as if there's like bushes or something, I guess it might be, but I continue it right across. And it's also good because I can also hide some of this darker outline that I don't want necessarily. Maybe it's just like that. Some random smooches. Okay. Now, what to do? Some white. What about white with red? I suppose that's pink, isn't it? No. What about... Well, that's interesting. Look at this purple. That's a very... So this is like a... this is kind of nice. This is a very gentle purple, like Monet water lilies purple. And I'm just going to see how it looks as I mix it in. I'm going to do it to the area that I started at earlier because it's too strong on this one. So I'll take this Monet color and take it down a notch. And it's okay if some of the darker blue shows through because it adds some kind of complexities to it. But I'm going to... Isn't that nice? Now this tree needs something. This branch. Front, so I'll just put a little bit of a tiny outline in front of the other branches. But it also needs an outline here. Boop, boop. And maybe I can make it thinner. I'll give it more purple down here. Oh, it definitely needs some work up here. Just destroy that little knob. Okay, so this branch just very gentle kind of outlines on this one. It's too hard, Josh, not so strong. Kind of fucked it up a bit, but this is a good idea. These trees, which were just a bunch of white little brush strokes, I'm going to give them a little bit of a trunk life. Oops. Hey, what if I just did that? That might be kind of a cooler way to end the trees. Just let them go straight without a hard ending. Just sort of bring the line down. You know? Just try that. I'll make each one different. Like this one, I'll add a bit of this blur to it. You know, just okay. All right. Maybe, you know what I'm gonna do? I think I'm gonna take a break. Yeah, I'm gonna take a break, get some more coffee. I think I made some good progress. And thanks for watching.